Israel. For a month we've been traveling in this beautiful and diverse country. We float in the Dead Sea, explore green wadis, and for the first time in our lives we experience a desert. We also enter Palestine with its vast and rocky plains. We slowly try to grasp the relationship between these two countries and their neighboring lands, somewhere between constant threat, bomb attacks, global news and normal mundane day-to-day life. Two countries with very delicate personalities that seem so complex and hard to grasp.
We came in Nanook and we converted our car, our 4x4 Mitsubishi Pajero, into a camper. After 3 months of traveling the Balkans, we decided to ship our car over the Mediterranean to Israel. And here we are, just landed in Tel Aviv and taking the train to Haifa, the port city our car is being shipped to. We arrive late in the evening at our couchsurfing place, where we'll stay until we have our little home on 4 wheels back.
To be honest, the last days we spent traveling from Athens to Haifa were really exhausting. Constantly nervous that some little thing wouldn't work out. Living out of a backpack for 4 days. It's funny how you get used to living in a car. Not having that independence makes you a little antsy. We're looking forward to freely roaming around Israel.
But first, we have to get our Dakar out of the port, and that's a challenge in itself. We spend a whole day at the port, arranging temporary car insurance, temporary import papers, and passing through customs and security, running from one office to the next, having our car checked. But we are in good hands, and the day turns out astonishingly fine. And then, in the evening, we have Dakar perched over the rooftops of Haifa. We're proud and so relieved.
We make our way out of the city towards Hakineret, a huge lake also known as the Sea of Galilee. On the lookout for a calm spot after the buzzing cities of the previous week. But it's hard to find one. Northern Israel is very densely populated. The whole country is the size of the Bundesstaat Hessen in Germany. The desert that covers the south makes it a challenge to accommodate about 9 million inhabitants. We relax a little before entering Tel Aviv, a modern and charming city with a long coastline.
Jerusalem is very different, an old city with tremendous historical and religious importance. You feel this weight Jerusalem carries while walking through the heavy, century-old stone alleyways. We spend a lot of time just roaming around, observing the commotion around the holy sites. Jews, Muslims and Christians all together. The Wailing Wall was a place we heard so much about. We watched Jewish ceremonies and many people scurrying around. The Wailing Wall is parted into a male and a female section. People write wishes and hopes on paper pieces and stuff them in the little crevices of the wall. I also write something. When the papers fall out of the wall, they are gathered and buried next to the 1,000 other graves of the Mount of Olives. We also visit Temple Mount with its Rock of the Dome temple. And, even though we're both not religious, it's all very impressive.
You may have noticed already, Israel isn't quite like other countries. On the superficial level, one might notice that the writing system is very special and some people wear seemingly extraordinarily old-fashioned clothing. If you dig deeper, however, you'll notice some interesting things. For example, Israel isn't very Arab-influenced, even though the surrounding countries are all Arabic-speaking and Muslim countries. Israel seems to be a cultural island in these aspects.
If you travel to Israel, you can't avoid being confronted with Israel's history. By that, I don't mean watching the news and realizing that Israel is often targeted by missiles, by terrorist attacks, and is one of the world's leading military forces. No, only seeing these external signs of a decade-old conflict won't help you understand the country. After listening to many podcasts, reading articles, and looking up specific topics online, we have a feeling that we were starting to scratch the surface and understanding correlations. So here's an attempt to explain the way we understood the whole situation, but this is in no way the only true and definitive account.
74% of Israel's population is Jewish. Until 1948, Jews didn't have a country that was really theirs. They had dispersed to many countries all around the world, but continued to identify with the land of modern-day Israel. After the horrors of the Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazis, the British, or rather the UN, decided to give the Jews a country of refuge. The territory of modern-day Israel was then a British colony. The people that had lived there before, the Palestinians, were displaced, forcing them to leave their homeland and everything else behind. This new Jewish state wasn't perceived well by the neighboring Arab countries. It was land that once belonged to Arab people, and they saw Israel as a threat. This led to conflicts, such as the Six-Day War in 1967, when Egypt, Jordan and Syria attacked Israel and were supported by Saudi Arabia, Iraq and the Soviet Union. But Israel had strong military support from the US and the UN and could counterattack before being attacked itself. It even seized land that wasn't its own territory before, like the Golan Heights, the Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem and the Sinai Peninsula. Some land was given back in peace treaties later on, but the situation is still very tense. All men and women have to do military service at the age of 18. Men for 3 years, women for 2. There are regular air raid sirens in towns and villages, and every newly built house has to have a bomb shelter. Shortly after arriving in Israel, there was a bomb attack in Jerusalem at a bus stop, demonstrating to us on first arrival how present these conflicts still are and how fast things can escalate. In the beginning, we didn't know in which way this could influence our stay, so we asked our couchsurfing host how he assesses the situation. But he seemed very relaxed and told us that such things just happen.
We make our way towards the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea lies 430 meters below sea level, and the water has an extremely high percentage of salt, 34%. The warm climate around the Dead Sea enables the growth of big, sweet and juicy medjool dates. But naturally, water is very scarce in the region around the Dead Sea, and can't sustain agriculture in this grand scheme. The extraction of drinking water and projects to artificially redirect rivers flowing into the Dead Sea have led to a drastic drop in the water level over the last few decades. As the water level sinks, the very salty ground stays behind, and as rain washes out the salt over the next years, the ground becomes porous and just breaks away in some parts. So-called sinkholes appear and riddle the ground with craters. They are dangerous because they can appear suddenly all along the coast. Streets have already had to be redirected, date plantations abandoned, and hotels closed. There are already more than 1,000 sinkholes. The Dead Sea is shrinking ever more, and scientists estimate that it could be gone by 2050, or may have stabilized at a drastically smaller size.
The north end of the Dead Sea is comparably deep and the water muddy. We explore the salt-crusted coast and find beautiful salt crystals, and loads of rubbish washed up all along the coastline.
On we head to the more southern part of the Dead Sea. Here the water is shallow and the salt is even more concentrated. There's industry mining the minerals of the Dead Sea, and loads of fancy hotels, resorts and spas.
We find the most stunning spots with crystal clear waters and white salt islands. This place feels so surreal and out of this world, perfect for some photography.
We're in awe and enjoy floating in this magical sea. Due to the high salt concentration, the water carries your body without any effort on your part. It's a crazy feeling. And to be honest, it makes me sad to know that maybe we'll be one of the last generations to experience this place. This fragile sea has existed for thousands of years, and will now most likely, silently and unnoticed by most, dry up within a century. It's the dying sea, and will soon live up to its real name, the Dead Sea.
En Gedi is a beautiful wadi, wadi meaning valley. Often these wadis are like little green oases, wonderful to explore. En Gedi has been known to the locals for many years, and almost every Israeli knows it. We visit the national park and go for a long hike. We were advised to take 5 liters of water per person on such a day hike. We didn't need that much, but we're happy to have taken more than we usually would have. After hiking up and along steep rocks, we have a wonderful view over the Dead Sea and picnic up there.
On our way down, we pass through washed-out rock pools that require some climbing. As we reach the last part of our hike through the oasis, we're thrilled. After hours in this arid, dusty and rocky landscape, the lush green oasis with its abundant waterfalls is even more impressive. This country is so beautiful. We even see these little animals called Hyrax. On our hike, we meet 4 Israelis who invite us to tea and fresh dates. As they hear that we're traveling with a camper, they tell us about their camping lodge and invite us to their place. So the next day we make our way to Skedi's camp lodge, a little paradise, with hammocks, trees, fireplaces and little lights everywhere. We stay for 4 nights and enjoy a relaxing time. We also make friends with all the cats living on the campground. We're invited on a tour around the village by Sippy, who also lives here, and explains to us that the village is a so-called Moshav. This is a special type of Israeli settlement, a cooperative agricultural community, meaning that the people work in the fields, in greenhouses and in administration all around the village, but don't earn money as individuals. Their salaries are collected in one common pool and then equally distributed. It's one of many types of community living that are common all around Israel, the kibbutz being the most famous, but more on that later.
Sippy shows us around the whole area, including the special vegetation here. She tells us how flash floods overflow onto streets and fields in some seasons, and the challenges of growing plants on extremely salty soil, and also the difficulties of growing crops in general in such an arid and water-scarce region. Exactly these were the goals of the first Israeli communities trying to farm this land, and how Israel could solve many of the problems connected with water scarcity by researching and developing the right technologies. 75% of Israel's drinking water is desalinated, Israel being the leading country in water purification.
But having enough water for farmland that isn't used to having so much water leads to another problem. The warm and now in parts humid climate is perfect for flies and their eggs. Around the Dead Sea there are millions of flies. They are everywhere and become unbearable. People here seem to have become used to them, but we really suffer. A natural balance seems to have gotten lost here. We say bye to Jill and Sippy, and at our next camp spot, I decide that it's time to cut my hair again.
While researching for our trip through Israel, we were never really sure if we would enter Palestine. How are the border crossings between these two countries? Will we be able to re-enter Israel after having been in an Arab country? And is it even safe? Before entering Israel, we heard so many different stories about Israel and Palestine and couldn't assess the situation at all. We even covered our Arabic writing on Dakar because we were afraid that we'd get in trouble because of it. How wrong we were. Almost everything in Israel is written in 3 languages: Hebrew, Arabic and English. We enter Palestine and we don't even notice. There's no physical border, not even a military checkpoint, nothing. Just one long road, the Route 90 leading from Israel to Palestine and back to Israel again. We pass the Judean desert and enjoy its vastness from above our beautiful camp spot. From up here everything is totally calm, nothing that could hint that there is a decades-old conflict that could escalate at any moment. Generally, we didn't feel unsafe at any point in Israel or Palestine. And also the people we spoke with that live here didn't seem to feel threatened. They all lived a totally normal life, just with some precautions and almost everyone being able to handle a firearm. You get used to seeing young people in military service wearing their assault rifles openly while sitting in a cafe, for example.
Later on in our journey, we heard the saying, "In the beginning you think that safety is a problem in Israel. Later you'll realize that not having enough money is your true problem." And yes, sadly it's true. Generally, prices are higher than in Germany. We paid €2.10 for a litre of diesel in December 2022, and this was not the desert fuel price. On the other hand, the country is small, so there are not really big distances to cover. Also, food is extremely expensive. We start to live on beans, rice and vegetables. But why is fuel so expensive? One reason definitely is that Israel doesn't have its own oil fields. We heard a funny quote about this from former Premier Golda Meir. Let me tell you something that we Israelis have against Moses. It took us 40 years through the desert in order to bring us to the one spot in the Middle East that has no oil. Furthermore, Israel's not-so-brilliant relations with the Arab countries, from which they buy their oil, makes the oil prices more expensive for them. We were also told that it's due to high taxes imposed by the state.
And then we enter the Negev desert. During the week, big parts of the desert are military practice areas and you can't leave the main road. We were advised by quite a few people not to leave our car unattended in the desert. Sadly, Bedouins are known for stealing cars and selling their parts. There are still a few Bedouin tribes living in the plains, but we were told that the government makes it difficult for them to freely roam around with their livestock and they have a hard time surviving with their nomadic lifestyle. We wondered what these craters in the ground are, only to realize that we are on an old army training ground, ammunition casings and remnants of mortars lying all around our camp spot. From then on, we start to check the ground before leaving the dirt roads.
We slowly make our way further south, driving through rocky and empty landscape. We stop at this crater called Ramon crater and also drive into it. Inside, you don't really notice that you're inside a crater. It's all far too big. We go for a hike and see stunning desert plants and wild ibex. We love to meet people on our journey, but we're both not extremely extroverted. It sometimes even feels like there's a pressure to get in contact with locals, because otherwise you miss out. I don't exactly know where this pressure comes from, if it's just me or if it's an external expectation I feel. But you can't force or plan encounters, and there sometimes are encounters where you rather wish there had been none. Until now, on our way through the Balkans, we didn't really meet people which we then got to know closer. Maybe it was the linguistic barrier, us enjoying the first months of traveling alone, or simply not the kind of local people we warmed up with. In Israel, we got to know really many people. The open, curious, and extremely welcoming way of Israelis made it easy. English is spoken by almost everyone, regardless of age. We couch surfed, joined a traditional Shabbat dinner, and lived in a kibbutz for a few days. The Football World Cup in Qatar being our constant companion, we didn't know that Israelis were so much into football. The finals we watched at Jossi's in the kibbutz. Well, we didn't quite explain what a kibbutz exactly is, so here's an attempt.
After the Jews were given the land that is now Israel, they had to start to farm their land, to grow food and build up infrastructure. For that, young people formed so-called kibbutzim. Kibbutz meaning in Hebrew gathering, a type of what some call a communist community settlement. In a kibbutz, people don't own their house, their car, and not even their toaster. Everything is owned by their community. Like in the Mushav, salary is equally divided among the members, independent of their job. People usually eat in one big community hall, and there are people that cook, some that take care of the laundry, and others work in the fields or have more academic jobs. Effective task sharing within one fixed community. The kibbutz is governed by a system of direct participatory democracy, where the individual can directly influence issues and events in the community. With all of this comes the understanding that the kibbutz members are part of a unit larger than just their family. Money for vacations and other extra expenses, for example, are applied for and then decided by the community if they are granted. Yes, there's a lot of potential for conflict, but also for growth, happiness, and a sense of belonging. We spent a lot of time pondering if we could live in a kibbutz. I guess the answer is yes, but maybe not forever. We stay in the kibbutz during their 65th anniversary and the 8-day Chanukah celebrations, also known as the Jewish Festival of Light. Families gather in the evenings, sing traditional songs, and the special 9-branched chandelier is lit. Here the whole kibbutz came together.
ה' בכסלו כבשו המכבים את ירושלים. בית המקדש חזר לידי היהודים. הפסלים היוונים הוצאו ממנו, ומנורה שבה להאיר את החלל הקדוש.
אנו נושאים לפידים, נושאים לפידים, נושאים לפידים, נושאים בלילות אפלים, זורחים השבילים מתחת רגלינו, ומי אשר לב לא הצמא לאור, יישא את עיניו וליבו אלינו לאור. שיבוא
On we go towards Eilat, a city at the Red Sea, one of 2 points where border crossings to Jordan are possible with a car. Eilat itself is not very beautiful and somewhat touristy. It's here that we apply for our Jordan visa and our Jordan pass, last minute on a crowded supermarket parking lot. But everything works out, and on the same day we leave Israel, a country we both fell in love with. The diverse and special nature, combined with very open and humorous people, made us feel at home wherever we went. Is there more to wish for while traveling?
Entering Jordan, on the other hand, turns out to be quite a shock. We feel overwhelmed by the differentness in this Arabic country, in comparison to Israel, which is much more Western influenced. But we also experience our first sand desert with Dakar, get stuck in the red sand of Wadi Rum and visit Petra, one of the new 7 world wonders. But more on that next time. See you soon!